Is generative AI ready for prime time with photography applications? There are a few things out there. Adobe Photoshop has had it for a while. And now we're going to take a look at Luminar Neo GenSwap to see if you can make a photorealistic addition to your photos, or if it's just going to be something that is going to have to wait a while longer. There's a lot of buzz about generative AI, and in theory, it sounds great. You can make a selection somewhere in your photograph and then tell the computer, I want something here. So in other words, you could tell it like it could be a big tiger, a big bear. Maybe you want a speeding car or a group of bikers going down a road. You can have all these little ideas to put in there, but the question is whether is the execution up to par or not. And I found that it really depends on the photograph that you have, what you're describing, and sometimes how you're describing it. So let's go ahead and take a look inside of Luminar Neo and GenSwap. All right, so I'm going to start off with what I think are some easy ones. And if you want to get to GenSwap, notice we're in the catalog and you'll see GenSwap over here under the generative tools. And this depends on which version of Luminar Neo you have. If you've got the Pro plan or the subscription, you should have this. If you bought the lifetime deal for Luminar Neo, you may not see this. You may have to go back and get a subscription to add these tools because it does go up to the servers. It's not just on your computer where it's working, and that costs money. So that's why it would be an add-on cost. Hopefully within this video, we'll let you know if it's worth the add-on cost or not. So you can do it a couple ways. You can drag your photo over to GenSwap, or you could just click the button GenSwap, and it'll take a moment. It'll analyze it. So here's how it works. You're going to draw a selection, and I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger just by hitting the bracket keys. And I'm going to select this area right over here. And then once I do that, it gives me a prompt in here. What do you envision here? Well, let's say World War II fighter plane. And that's simple. Now, there's all sorts of things you can write in here. You don't want to put any verbs in there. You want to put in descriptive text and nouns, but you don't want to say any verbs. So let's take what we've got here. We'll go ahead and click on swap, and then it'll take a while to give me a result. All right, so there's my result. It looks absolutely nothing like a World War II fighter plane. That is not a P-51 Mustang. That is not a Corsair. That is just more of the Angels with some of their horns and some of them without. So if you don't like it, you can go ahead and hit swap again, or you can change it. Let's say, so I'll put in P-51 fighter plane, and we're going to try and swap this again. All right, this is even more hilarious. So we've got more of these little angels up here, and I have never seen a P-51 with 3 different props going in different directions. And the markings for these with a little black cross almost kind of reminds me of the German World War II plane markings rather than the American. So this is just an utter fail, completely and utterly a fail. Why? I don't know why it's picking up areas that I didn't select to put in here. It obviously examined the entire image, and this is what I came up with. So let's go ahead and clear everything. I'm going to come down here to this little reset thing, and I'm just going to reset everything so we get back to our original image. I'm going to try one more thing, and we'll put in F-22 fighter. Oh my, that is just hilariously awful. And it really does keep wanting to put these heralds, the angels with the horn, on top of whatever jet it's got. Maybe the problem is I'm trying to get an airplane. Let's do something else. I'm going to reset this. And I've still got my selection area over here. Let's put in Valkyrie. I did not expect text. I actually expected, some kind of take on what a Valkyrie was. But no, that's something I haven't seen before. I have never seen this come in and put in text. All right, we're going to reset this and just try something really simple. Cumulus cloud. It's a sky. Hopefully it should be able to put a cloud in the sky. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. that is not a cloud like I've ever seen before. All right, so clearly the problem is this photograph. It's just not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. And let's pick a different photograph. I'm going to choose this one. And so in this time, I'm just selecting the photo and I'll click GenSwap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the road. Now, when you select an area, you want to select a little bit beyond where you want things to go. You actually want to select over so it can see a little bit of the image around it. And my idea here is to have, a car speeding down the road. And the reason I'm selecting this high is because the height of the car may be higher than the selection area. So let's say Ford Mustang. That sort of looks like a Mustang, although it's the widest Mustang I've ever seen. But notice a couple things. It actually replaced the road. And it did not go any higher than the area that I selected. So it's kind of low and flat to the ground. And that's probably because of the selection that I've chosen. But it's still not a realistic looking vehicle in my mind. And if we zoom in, this is what I wanted to look at, is this little wheel in the front is not exactly round. So this thing's not going to go very far or very fast. So let's reset the selection. It has kind of the shape of a Ford Mustang. It's clearly not one. The wheel is not going to turn. Even this one back here doesn't look all that good. And that's certainly not the Ford Mustang logo over there. I have no idea what kind of license plate it has up front. Also notice that the color of the light that's on this image does not match the overall photograph that we have here. So this looks like, let's say even if it were a perfect rendition of a car, the color doesn't really match. It's got like a blue cast to it where this is a day full of sunshine. When we put something in our photograph, then we have to go back and do post-processing to get the color to match the entire scene, because this looks like it was shot in a very different place than the environment that it's in. Let's cancel that. All right, I'm going to come down here to something that's hopefully cute and adorable. And I've got cute baby here and cute baby here. Let's try this cute baby. And what I want to do is just put a little stuffed animal next to him. Let's say that we pick this area over here. And that's quite a large area, probably larger than I need, but let's say teddy bear. All right. That's something that actually looks like it may belong here. And let's clear the selection. So as we're looking around here, that actually looks like a real teddy bear. And I'd say there's still a little bit off about it. You see the size of the foot over here on its left, and then what we have over here on its right. It doesn't really match. I got to tell you, that's much better than when I did this as a test before, because it ended up having the two paws up here and then three legs down here. So it still looked kind of photorealistic like that, but it actually works there. And you notice that there's some shadow over here on the side. So you can see where the light is coming from the side. It picked up the direction of light and made some shadow from the teddy bear from that side. Even on its face, you can see there's a little bit of shadow in there. So overall, it did a pretty good job. It didn't match the foot, which you could almost kind of get away with that. So I'm going to say that is the best success that I've had so far that we've been looking at this. Okay, let's see if we can't find something else. One of the things I like to try and do is see if you can put some wildlife in a scene. So we've got this area that looks kind of like a savanna. And I thought, well, what if I want to have a herd of antelope here? So again, this is going to be a larger selection. And we'll just come down and type in herd of antelope. All right, so we've got a herd of something. You can definitely see horns, but every single one of them seems to have its legs in the same position. They're long and skinny and narrow, and herds just don't behave that way. They're not that tight together. You know, maybe in a defensive thing, but I don't see anything attacking them. So it's not something that I would put out there to try and fool anybody. It just doesn't have quite the look. So we can, if we don't like the results that we get, we can just come down here and we'll click on swap again to have it regenerate. All right, so it's given us something different. It's really weird looking to me still. They're facing the opposite direction. I don't mind that, but their antlers don't look right. The shape of their bodies don't look right. Let's try just one antelope. All right, well, I'm not great at math, but that looks like more than one. And again, that's not quite what a real antelope looks like. And also, it's not just the fact that the body shape is a bit off. They don't look photorealistic. These look kind of graphic in my mind. So let's go ahead and clear this out. We're going to try something completely different. And notice as I undo it, it's going back from the previous ones that it's done. Let's clear the selection. And we're just going to make a spot right here. And we're going to look for a male lion walking. We've got a few things going on. At first glance, it actually might look like a male lion. I'm looking at its rear leg and tail. I'm not really thrilled with that. So let's go ahead and zoom into that. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on with the hind part of this lion. And again, this looks like a really bad cutout that's been pasted on here. And look at that jaw. Those are some big buck teeth is what I see right there. That's hilarious. Okay, I'm going to call that a fail as well too. Like the edges of the lion are just a bit rough. They don't fade off naturally into the grass. The details, I mean, he's severely disfigured back there, and he's got a smile kind of like, you know, the Bucky the Beaver. All right, so let's forget about that one. I'm going to try this photo down here, and I'm just going to want to add something into the sky. We're going to see if we can't put, you know, a nice little hot air balloon right about there. All right, so yes, it is a hot air balloon. It does not look like it's part of the scene. If you notice, the background is out of focus. And it's kind of got this a little bit out of focus. It's not quite the same way out of focus. And it doesn't fit. I don't know why it selected those blue and yellow colors. I would have thought that maybe it would have tried to match the scenery that was around it, or maybe not. Balloons can be any kind of colors. But again, I just say the lighting on the balloon and the fact that it's in an area that should have been out of focus just doesn't match. Which kind of brings us to a point. The photo you select has a lot to do with the result that you're going to get. If you're trying to add an object to something like this that clearly has a bokeh that is out of focus, you're probably going to have very poor results. So let's cancel this and try something else. Okay, so we've got a lady riding a bicycle. It's a little bit out of focus here. And let's see what we can get right about here. And I want to have a large grizzly bear. Now I said large, but something else to keep in mind while this is thinking is the size of the object you're going to get is going to fit within the selection that you make. You want a bigger object? Make a bigger selection. So once again, you can see that it fits inside the selection. It's taking up most of it. Yeah, you recognize it as a grizzly bear, except for a couple things. One, again, it looks like a graphic illustration. And two, it's got ears on its head, but then what are these two bumps over there? It's like it's got additional ears on its shoulder. And it's just, it's interesting to me. I'm looking at the lighting on the bear's head and on the bear's side and trying to match that with the photograph. But this is not a photorealistic looking bear. It is something that looks like an artistic graphic solution rather than a photorealistic result. So I'm seeing that as a trend that we're getting some of those graphic looking results rather than something that's realistic. Also, if you count the number of claws on this paw over here, it is way more than any bear has a right to have. So since we're getting things that are graphic, well, let's try and make something graphic and see what result we get. So this photograph was from a dance session in Havana. And I want to see if we can't put some kind of a poster over here. So I've given it plenty of room to put in a poster. And Cuban poster of Che. There's a certain graphic style to some of the posters we used to see of Che. Well, the angle is weird, and it's definitely graphic. It sort of looks like Che Guevara, but it also looks like it could be someone, from the Middle East. It doesn't quite say Che. I mean, where it's trying to do writing or letters, it doesn't work. But overall, it's just a graphic that looks plastered on the photograph, not something framed on the wall. So let's change this around. Let's see. So framed poster of Fidel Castro. Well, I don't recall him ever having quite a flat top haircut, but overall, I'd say the face looks like Fidel Castro. The writing or the signature beneath him doesn't look like him. And I don't recall him wearing clothing that was black with that kind of collar. He always, in most of what I saw him, was in military fatigues. It's like close, but no cigar. And again, this doesn't look like it's on the wall. It looks like it's just something that was plastered there. So that is kind of the results that I seem to have when I'm trying to use Luminar Neo Gen Erase. And it just doesn't really work. Maybe one day it will work. Maybe one day it'll work just fine. But I haven't had a really positive result, I'd say, outside of that teddy bear that was pretty close, but still not quite 100% perfect. And I'm trying to look and see if there's opportunity for just one more option. All right, we're going to do something really silly, and just right in here, I'm going to put in rubber duck. Oh, look, I got a couple of rubber ducks. And I tell you, the one on the right really looks evil. He's giving me the eye. I don't know why I got two of them. Maybe it's because I didn't specify. It's just a bit odd to me. I do like the fact that we're seeing a shadow underneath the ducks. They still look rather cartoonish to me rather than realistic. But that is what we're getting with Luminar Neo GenSwap, and also with some other tools that are photographic tools that have generative addition or generative fill. It's not quite what I would expect for something realistic. Now, why would somebody want to use things like this? Well, maybe you want to add something to a photograph that you thought was missing, but I kind of see that as trying to save a bad photograph. And quite honestly, I'm of the opinion that a bad photograph is a bad photograph. You're really not going to save it. There are some things that work. I have a previous video on Luminar Neo Gen Erase. I used the same photo and I selected this car to remove it. I thought it did a really good job on that. It did a poor job on some of the other ones, but that's where I say the photograph that you choose makes a difference as to how well some of these tools work. But when it has to use its AI imagination, that's where I think these things fail. I told it very specific things like a P-51 fighter plane or a Ford Mustang, and it didn't get those right. It was hilariously wrong. And that's something that's trying to generate something and not take a photograph from somebody else that maybe it understood from the internet. So you clearly don't want to take someone else's photograph or a part of their photograph and have it embedded into your photograph. So it's got to come up with and write out on your photograph what it thinks you're looking for. And I think that's part of the problem. I don't think that the system is there yet. Now, I may have mentioned before, if I didn't, I'll mention it again. In order to use GenSwap or GenErase or GenExtend, you need to be connected to the internet. What's happening is a copy of your image is being sent to Luminar or Skylum servers and is doing the work there and returning the result to you. It's not keeping your photograph. It's not saving the things that you generate. It's just simply the work isn't being done on your computer. That's why you need an internet connection. But Having tried this thing, just what we've experimented with here and also what I've done beforehand, I can't say that this is something I would recommend unless you just want to see what hilarious results you're going to get. So I would love to come up and tell you that GenSwap is the greatest thing ever, and maybe one day it will be. But right now I'm recording this in January 2024, and it is not something that I'm going to use to publish any of my own photos. With that in mind, I hope this was helpful for you. If you were thinking about getting GenSwap, this tells you what kind of results you're going to get in different types of photographs. And is it worth it to you to buy it or not? And sure, I'm an affiliate, but I don't want to sell you something that's going to give you a bad experience and not be worth your money. Right now, if you've got the lifetime plan and you don't have GenSwap, I would wait a while before buying it because I'm not really thrilled with the results. I wouldn't put this out, and I wouldn't ask you to do the same thing either. If you like what you see here, by all means, go ahead and get it. I've got a coupon code down below, and that's good for Luminar Neo, which overall I think is a great tool. So it is Beam 10 off, and that'll save you, is it $10 or 10%? You'll have to find out when you put it in because I haven't used it in a while. But I'll have that as a link in the description below. And let me know what you think. Are you using generative tools with your photography? Do you think it's ethical to use generative tools in your photography? That's always an open question. So let me know in the comments below, and I will see you again in the next video.